Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said that the current phase of fighting against Hamas in Gaza is winding down, setting the stage for Israel to send more troops to its northern border to confront the Lebanese militant group Hezbollah. The comments threaten to further heighten the tension between Israel and Hezbollah at a time when they appear to be moving closer to war. Netanyahu also signaled that there is no end in sight for the grinding war in Gaza. The Israeli leader said in a lengthy TV interview that while the army is close to completing its current ground offensive in the southern Gaza city of Rafah, that would not mean that the war against Hamas is over. But he said fewer troops would be needed in Gaza, freeing up forces to battle Hezbollah. The Iranian-backed Hezbollah began striking Israel almost immediately after Hamas's attack. This was the cross-border attack that triggered the Gaza war on the 7th of October last year. Israel and Hezbollah have been exchanging fire nearly every day since then, but the fighting has escalated in recent weeks, raising fears of a full-blown war. Hezbollah is much stronger than Hamas, and opening a new front would raise the risk of a larger regional-wide war involving other Iranian proxies and perhaps Iran itself that could cause heavy damage and mass casualties on both sides of the border. Hezbollah said that it will continue battling as far as Israel under a ceasefire is reached in Gaza.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is looking to the north. Netanyahu says that as the current phase of fighting in Gaza winds down, Israel will soon be able to deploy more and more forces along its northern border to prepare for confrontation with the Lebanese militant group Hezbollah. Hezbollah began attacking Israel last October, almost immediately after the war in Gaza erupted. And since then, there have been exchanges of fire nearly every day. But these exchanges, along with the rhetoric between these two enemies, have intensified in recent weeks, and there are now concerns on both sides of the border that a full-blown war is approaching. Hezbollah is far more powerful than Hamas, and a war between Israel and Hezbollah could be devastating to the region. Hezbollah is believed to possess a collection of rockets and missiles that are capable of striking anywhere in Israel. The Israeli military, meanwhile, says it has prepared plans for an offensive in Lebanon, and Israeli leaders have said the scenes of destruction in Gaza could soon be repeated inside Lebanon. Now, Netanyahu says he's hoping for a diplomatic solution to this standoff, but he says that Israel is prepared to go to war if that's what it takes to restore quiet along its northern front.
And to get more on this, we have Linda Gradstein, a reporter of Voice of America, joining us from Jerusalem. Thank you so much for speaking to us here on NDTV. Linda, what is your reading of the current situation as far as the Lebanon border is concerned, as war looms along Lebanon's border? How do you see this unfold? What is your reading of it?
So, first of all, I think it is a serious issue that this UAV was able to get in and get this drone footage. And it's a sign, I think, that Israel and Hezbollah are kind of playing this game of chicken, kind of pushing each other's buttons, trying to each do things that they know will annoy the other, but stop short of a full war. The truth is that Israel and Hezbollah have been on the verge of a war since October 8th, when one day after Hamas, attacked Israel, Hezbollah then joined in. At the same time, it seems pretty clear that they've sort of tried to hold back a little bit.
Well, Linda, also thousands of Iran-backed fighters have now offered to join Hezbollah in its fight against Israel. If that happens, how will the United States react?
So that's the question. I mean, if Iran joins the war, would the United States then join the war to protect Israel? Up until now, Iran has preferred to act mostly through proxies. There was one time in April when Iran fired dozens of rockets at Israel, but they didn't do that much damage and nobody was killed, and then the situation kind of settled down. I don't think Iran really wants a war with Israel. It wants to use its proxies to carry out a war with Israel and then have them pay the price of the Israeli response.
Right, Linda, also we've seen Netanyahu, he's done multiple flip-flops on the hostage negotiations. Netanyahu is now facing a backlash to comments on ceasefire deal as hostage families release a new video. What does this video contain?
Well, first of all, just in the last few minutes, in fact, the families of 3 of the hostages released video that's never been shown before of their abduction that came from the GoPros that the Hamas terrorists were wearing, and it showed the 3 hostages looking terrified, being loaded and wounded. They were bloodied, loaded onto a flatbed truck. And the hostage families released a statement saying that they're releasing this video because it's such an indictment of the fact that Israel has failed to, get them freed for more than 260 days. So I think there's definitely worry in Israel that the longer time goes on, more hostages are dying, whether by Hamas itself, whether by neglect and the conditions.
Well, Linda, can we expect snap elections to unseat Netanyahu?
Well, the polls show that he does not have a lot of support, that the public is very frustrated with the way that he's run this, with the intelligence failure that allowed October 7th to happen. It's quite amazing how and the fact that it took several days for Israel to retake some of those communities that were on the border with Gaza that were taken over by Hamas, that it took, rather than hours, it took days to retake them, and the loss of life. I mean, I think the country is still really traumatized by October 7th. And, Netanyahu has refused to take responsibility. That said, polls show that in an election he would not win.
Right. Thank you so much, Linda Gradstein, for joining us from Jerusalem.